We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Chris Wood. I'm a Senior Vice President with FirstService Residential. I want to thank all of you for being out here tonight. We're very happy to be able to put this event on for you, and I know that you will get some good information tonight, information that is applicable to all of us. I've been in some events before like this where the Henderson Police Department and the various organizations have been able to come out and talk, and they've always been good and very informative events. So we're excited for you to be here. We're again grateful, happy we could put this on. Want to give a quick shout out and thank you all again for being here. It shows that you care about your communities. I know we have a mixture of some board members and some homeowners here as well. I particularly want to thank the board members that are here. We know and sincerely thank you for the service that you give to your communities. Many times it is a thankless job, and from our opinion, certainly an underpaid one. But in our position, we have one of the advantage points of seeing what a good and well-run community is and how much the board of directors can play in that. So we thank you for your service, we sincerely do, and are grateful that you were able to come tonight. So as you know, we want to talk about community safety and neighborhood safety, and we have a number of different officers from the Henderson organizations that can talk about that. And the way we kind of like to go is we're going to introduce, first of all, Captain Castle. He's going to give kind of a broad overview and some general information with the Henderson Police Department, and then we'll kind of work into some more specific areas. What I would ask is if you have questions that are really group-oriented and that you think will benefit the group as a whole, those are the questions I want to ask. If you have something that's very specific, I'm quite sure the officers will be more than happy to provide you with contact information so you can reach out to them or the correct entity within the city of Henderson if you have something that's again, personal to or a unique situation to you, okay? Again, Captain Castle is going to lead things off, and then we'll hear from Officer Williams, who is going to talk about residential security, and Officer Williams is with the Community Relations Bureau, City of Henderson. And then we'll hear from Detective Dixon, who's going to talk about recent scams and some of the trends that they're seeing, something that I'm sure, I know you see it a lot on the news, I see it a lot on the social media sites for a number of the communities that we manage. And then we'll wrap it up with Constable Mitchell, who's going to talk about something that we hear a lot about from the communities and the boards that we service, which is squatters. And how do you deal with squatters and what are the options that are available to you? So without further ado, turn the time over to Captain Castle. And again, thank you for being here.
Thanks, sir. All right, volume check good in the back. So let's do this. First, I will do my disclaimer that I misinterpreted the appointment or the invitation. I came here thinking this was going to be a group of the Sun City McDonald Ranch homeowners. So I brought some statistics, most of which you don't care about. So we're going to go a little bit off the record here a little bit. As Chris mentioned, my name is Mark Castle. I'm a captain with the Henderson Police Department. I'm the patrol commander for West Area Command. And in a few minutes, I'll show you a map, or I'll try to show you a map. It's kind of small of what that means. Just a little bit, just so you understand where I'm coming from. I really care about this community. I've lived here, practically a native. I've lived here since I was 2 years old. I've been here over 43 years now. Always grown up in this area, or in the Las Vegas Valley, moved around a little bit. Really like Henderson. Henderson's a great place. My whole family is in law enforcement. My dad's a 32-year, still on the job, police officer with Metro. My cousin is currently the county fire chief. There's 3 or 4 other Castles running around in various uniforms around the city. So I tell you that because I want you to know that I do this not because it's a family thing. I do it because that's kind of the way I was raised, and that's why I put a passion into what we do as a department. I've been with HPD for 22 years. Been fortunate enough to go up the ranks and do a lot of different assignments in the department, and I won't bore you with what those are, but I've been around a little bit, not as long as Constable Mitchell in the back. He was on the police department when I got hired. He was already there, but there's not a lot of folks that are around that have been around much longer than I have, and it doesn't sound like 22 years is a long time, but when you consider that most of the police officers and firefighters retire around that age 25, 26, 27 year mark, I'm kind of coming towards the end of my lifespan here, so I'm hoping to break the record and be like the first 60-year-old officer out there. So that's enough about that. I want to tell you just a little bit about the Henderson Police Department because all of you guys are representatives of various communities all over the city. And I got a chance to go around and talk to almost everybody and find out where all of you live and where your associations that you represent are. And we have people all over the board. We've got people from the far older part of Henderson all the way out to Boulder Highway and Sunset area, all over the place. So this is great. This is really the only time I've been able to talk to a group that I can remember that has such a diverse group of homeowners. But the good thing is that the Henderson Police Department services all of you. You're all in the city of Henderson. HPD was born in 1953. So, you know, when the city incorporated, we formed a police department. Currently today we service over 300,000 residents, 300,000 folks, and when you add on visitors and people that commute and work and everything else, that's quite a big responsibility. We have about 105 square miles that we cover from border to border, and last year, in 2015, we did 184,000 calls for service. 184,000 times a police officer initiated a call for service, either by being called and asked to come and respond, or by observing something and investigating it. So I think, you know, that's quite a big volume of calls for service. But if you look at the calls for service volume versus our crime rate, that's a proportion that is very good for you as a homeowner in the city of Henderson, as a resident in the city of Henderson. So the police department is broken up into some different areas, and we have some folks from the different areas that are here. Just to give you just a quick, very quick snapshot, Patrol Division, which is all the officers, the men and women in blue uniforms and white cars that drive around and answer calls for service, and the motorcycle officers who do traffic enforcement and accidents. Those folks are broken up into 3 areas. We call those area commands. The map that I'm gonna hold this up, and I apologize because it's gonna be really hard for everybody to see, but it's color coded, and that's an outline of the city, and you can tell by the different colors how big the different areas are. And one of the reasons that I show that to you is because when we talk about different areas, we all have our own challenges in the different areas. In the west area, which is out here, we have a really big area. It spans really far, so it takes a long time to get from one end of the area to another end of the area. So our constant challenge out here is to be able to get to your calls for service and get to your home, to your homeowners, you know, the folks that live in your area. It's hard to get there, you know, as fast as we want to get there. In the other areas, it's more condensed. Down by the mall, it'll take you 10 minutes to get to go 3 lights. So, you know, we've got challenges down there, you know, with traffic and stuff. So, no matter what area you work in or you live in, you're going to have an area command assigned to your division. So, after we're done, if you want to know what area command you live in, just ask any one of us. We can let you know. We can give you the contact person for the captain of that area. So I'm the captain of the west area. There's a captain for the north area. There's a captain for the east area. And really, although we have great services through community relations and everything else, one of the best things that you can do for your community, your small community, is to form a relationship with your area captain. Because once we get to know you and once we get to know your neighborhood, it's real easy to pick up the phone and call and have a quick conversation and try to identify what resources we have in the department that can help you out. So we want to build that relationship. So don't ever hesitate to call the area captain. Outside of patrol, we have specialized units like Detective Dixon's in the investigative unit. Officer Williams is in our community relations unit. We have a jail. Henderson has a jail. I don't know if everybody knows that, but we have our own city jail that's very large, and it houses not only city of Henderson detainees, but also contracts out for other entities, including the county and some federal agencies that they pay us to house their inmates there. So we're able to generate some revenue, which keeps taxes down, which is good. But we have a whole staff we have 85 corrections officers, okay, that compared to 338 police officers and about 150, 160 civilian staff. So there's a whole group of folks that work in the jail, and a whole group of folks that work behind the scenes in support, records, dispatch, all the things that you know are associated with the police department.
Where is the jail, please?
The jail is down on basically like Water Street and Basic Road, right behind the Justice facility there, the Henderson Detention Center, and I don't know the address, but it's right there, kind of as you're going towards Boulder Highway on Basic. Yeah, it looks like a jail. All right, so knowing that, the good news is, like I alluded to, is you're all in the city of Henderson, which is great. I have a few things here to apologize. I apologize because I'm gonna actually just read these because I don't want to mess them up. I wrote down a couple just key points that I wanted to get across to all of you, or to the folks that I thought were going to be here, but to you too. The thing about HPD is we're one of only a very few amounts of agencies in the whole country that have received a CLIA Gold Standard of Excellence through accreditation. And that is a very significant thing for you as a citizen to know, because that means that your police department has basically risen above every standard for every single thing that the national standards have said, and we've done it to a level that they created this gold standard for agencies like Henderson and a few others. So we're real proud of that. We're repeatedly ranked one of the safest cities in the country to live in. I think about every 6 months, maybe sooner, something comes out and says Henderson's one of the safest cities to live in. Our citizen satisfaction ratio is up in the high 90% as far as city services and police services. And we lead the nation in a lot of areas. Police training, our training bureau has become a model that other agencies come and look at and watch. Our chief was on CNN talking about all the things that we do to make our officers maybe not have some of the issues that you're seeing in the media across the rest of the country. We lead we're at the front of the pack when it comes to diversity efforts within our organization, within the city, the things that we're trying to do. I'm really proud of the police department, and I want you guys to be proud of that too, because it's your police department, and we can't do what we do without you guys, without the citizens, and without the leaders and the informal leaders in the community. And because you guys are part of your HOA, you get to influence folks sometimes. Sometimes they don't like the influence that you have, but sometimes you get to give some positive influence, and we want to have a good partnership with you because we know that can snowball out and maybe affect all those folks. So the statistical thing we're not going to talk about because this is not Sun City. I'm not going to ask for any questions right now because, Chris, we talked about holding them to the end, but I'll leave you with this. You guys in the media right now, no matter what station you turn on, we all see examples of interactions with police departments and their community that aren't going so well. We see, no matter what side you think you're on, or whose opinion you think is more valid or whatever, what it all boils down to is the relationship that the community has with the police department before something significant happens is what's going to keep the community and the police department and everything safe in the way that we want it to be. So the more that we can do these kind of things, the better it is for us. I get asked about, I probably get a phone call at least once or twice a week, and I get stopped if I go to Starbucks, and they say, hey, you know what, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. Or I get a phone call and say, how can I let officer so-and-so know how much I appreciate what he did? Because he was there and he was compassionate and all these kind of things. And and I tell them we don't have little stickers we give them, or we don't have any of that stuff. And so what I tell them, and what I would ask you guys to do, is if you appreciate anything that the police department does for you, if you see a police officer that does something that you like, let them know that, because right now it is very important for our officers to go out there, every single day and do the kind of work that we ask them to do, to know that you support them. So any chance that you get to reinforce that on a one-on-one encounter with a police officer, whether you're standing in line at Starbucks, whether you're just pull up next to him at the stoplight, if you support the police department, wave to him and let him know, because we're hearing plenty of people who don't, right? And we know that those people are a very small fraction of our community, but we like to reinforce with our troops how much this relationship means to us. So that's my soapbox I was going to ask for you guys. I will have to leave before the end of this. So is it okay if there's any specific questions for me, if we go ahead and do that real quick, and then they can do their presentations and you can ask them questions on their thing?
Yeah, one thing I'll add this real quick is the map you referenced. We'll actually email to those of you who have email addresses. We'll email you a link to that that's on the city of Henderson website, so you can see what areas you're in, and that'll help you understand which captain you should establish that relationship with.
That's great. Yes, sir.
The SWAT team has to be called eyes and Metro Chief.
No. Well, the short answer is no. We have our own SWAT team. I know, I actually know quite a bit about SWAT because I did that for 15 years. We will typically respond within the city unless we're already on another call. So there's times when Henderson SWAT will respond through mutual aid to Las Vegas and handle the situation there because their team is tied up on something else. There's times when Metro will come in and respond here. That's for like barricade situations and stuff like that. If there is a search warrant that SWAT is serving, then that is served by whatever agency initiates the search warrant. So if somebody does a robbery in Las Vegas and they're living in Henderson, Metro Las Vegas will come in and serve that warrant for their case. Just like we will go to North Las Vegas and serve a warrant if it's for one of our cases. Yes, sir.
Yes, you said it's important, that we establish a relationship with our area captain. And my question is, how do we get in touch with them? I mean, what number do we call? In our case, it's you.
Okay, so there's a couple ways. If you don't have the opportunity to talk to one of us and get that name and number, it's on our website. If you go to our website, there's a drop down for the patrol division, and it gives you the name and the email address, and I believe the phone number for the area captain. And then you can just go straight to that link.
Yeah, we'll send that in a follow-up email, we'll send that out as well, we'll make sure you put all that.
And again, just to reiterate, those calls are, folks sometimes don't call because they think, oh, we're so busy, we have all this other stuff to do. Well, we are very busy, but that's a very important part of our job. Because if we don't understand what's going on with these different areas, how are we supposed to deploy the officers under our command, and how are we supposed to make decisions that really affect, the crime rates and things like that? We need to hear from you guys. Any other questions for me? You guys are letting me off waiting. I love it. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We have some really skilled experts in their field that are going to give you guys a little bit more information. And I hope that everybody takes something away from this. My cards will be in the back, and if not, if I run out of them, Chris is going to email everybody's contact. So appreciate your attention. Thank you.
All right, so next we have Officer Scott Williams. He's with the Community Relations Bureau, and he's going to discuss residential security.
Thank you,
Officer
Chris, I
Williams.
appreciate it. All right, so Captain Castle just said we're all so skilled in all of our divisions. Don't set the bar too high for me. Thank you, I appreciate that. Captain Castle did hit on that as far as the community aspect that we have here in Henderson. Our chief of police right now is very big on having an interaction with the community. You've heard Las Vegas Metro not responding to non-injury accidents anymore and these kind of things. Henderson still does. And we will continue to, because this is very important for Henderson to have this outreach, to have meetings like this, to have us be approachable, where people can still come up and talk to us and ask us questions. We're out responding. And if you want to call up and file a report that could be done over the phone or over the computer, but you want to speak face-to-face to an officer, you can request an officer and we'll come out and handle that. You're still going to have that personal connection here in Henderson. It's something that we promote. Our chief is on board with that right now, and I think most of the officers that work for Henderson came to work for Henderson for that reason. We love that community interaction. So with that being said, part of our CALIA standard, our gold standard that Captain Castle talked about, requires us to have a community relations unit. Even without that, we would still do that because of this community-oriented policing that we believe in. We like to come out and do that. So part of what I work with is our Community Relations Bureau. We have a group of about 7 of us now, 8 of us now. We're a little short-handed. But what we do is we go out, we've got many functions in our unit. We do a lot of preventative education, we do a lot of outreach, we do a lot of different programs with the high schools, like Every 15 Minutes, which is an anti-drug driving program for the high school kids, the juniors and seniors. We just finished up at Liberty High School. We do the Dreams program. Most of you probably are familiar with DARE. DARE is no longer around in the state. The funding went away. Henderson, again, being community oriented, immediately created our own program to replace DARE. And it's called DREAMS. It's another acronym. And basically it teaches 5th graders about making good decisions. It's a drug resistance program as well, similar to DARE, a little shortened. We still want those things going, and so we're trying to push for that. So we do a lot of those kind of events, or a lot of outreach programs. I'm not going to bore you with all the things that our unit does. I'm here specifically to talk about one of the main aspects that we do, and that's residential security or home security. We do a lot of safety presentations and things like that as well for adults. I'm going to focus on the home security. So, to back up just a little bit, I'm sorry, he introduced me a little bit, but just to tell you a little bit about my background. I've been an officer for coming up on 12 years now. I've done the bike team, I've done patrol, I was our detective bureau for a while, doing fraud and forgery, and that was just too much paperwork for me. So I jumped over to Special Victims Unit, which ended up being even more paperwork. Who would have guessed? So I did that for a while. I did child abuse, sex assault, and elder abuse as well. So I handled the elder exploitation cases from the financial side, and then also from physical or sexual abuse from elders as well. Now I'm doing the community outreach stuff, which I love. My whole career was chasing bad guys and chasing cases, and now we do a lot more of the preventative stuff, which I actually more rewarding. I love it. So with that, our unit does something under the guidelines of CPTED, C-P-T-E-D, and it stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And there's an organization called NICP, it's the National Institute of Crime Prevention. They came out with these awesome guidelines for protecting your home and your valuables against criminals. And what they did is they just broke it down and said criminals love the path of least resistance. They want a soft target. They want easy victims. So what this program does is it gives you guidelines on how to protect your stuff and just make your target, your home, whatever it may be, a little bit harder. Make it a little bit less appealing for somebody to commit crime at your property or to victimize you. This can be done on a personal level, it can be done on your home, it can be done on a business. So everyone in our unit has been certified through these CPTED strategies. And one thing I do want to leave with you, and I'll leave my business cards with Chris so that if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me directly or through our website as well. He'll have that link as well. We offer Henderson residents a home security survey. What that means is we will come out to your home, officers from my unit will come out, and we will survey your home. We go through your windows, we go through your door locks, we go through your landscape, your lighting, all of these kind of situations to try to give you some recommendations on securing or fortifying your residence better to make it less desirable for criminals. So we kind of walk through it with you and tell you as a criminal, this is what you'd be looking for. It's the best way that we can try to see why they break into people's homes and stuff. We kind of have to pretend like we are one. What we do is we give you a lot of resources. Now this is a free service for Henderson residents. All you do is request us, we'll come out. It usually takes about an hour and a half, depending on your property size and some of the recommendations that we may have on your property. Most people around here, it's common sense stuff. Most of you are probably already doing good things to protect your valuables. You're locking your car, you're doing these things. You might have an alarm system. I don't want to get into all of the stuff we get, but just as an example of some of the stuff we look at, 85% or so of our home invasions and our burglaries, home burglaries, are either front door kicks, where they kick the front door clean open, or it's some entry through the back. Either kicking a door, throwing a rock or something, or a brick through a slider glass window. That's the majority of our entries. So we would come in and we look at those situations. What CPTED did is they realized that when homes are built, the very front door is usually secured where that deadbolt goes in through that strike plate. It's usually secured with like a little 3/4 inch screw. Very little force is needed to kick those open, especially if it's like a double door opening. Very little force. So what they found out that if you just take those 3/4 inch screws out of your strike plate, just take a little drill, pull them out, and put 2.5 to 3 inch screws in there, now it would take a SWAT team basically 3 or 4 ram kicks with that to get the door open. Just changing the screws. Very easy, it's a few cents. And you can completely, I shouldn't say completely, take away that option of somebody kicking in the door, but what it does is it targets your target. Instead of them getting in on that first kick, they may, right? Everyone knows no matter what you do of anything we recommend, somebody can still break into your home if they really want to be in. But what that does is it makes it so difficult for them, they'll move on to a different target. They're not going to hit yours. If they're kicking on that door so many times to try to get that open, they're going to alert neighbors. They're going to alert you if you're inside. It's these things. So it's very simple stuff that we give. We also have recommendations for things that are very expensive, like the big metal security doors. Much more expensive. You guys work with the HOAs. A lot of HOA communities in Henderson don't allow those security doors because they're unsightly. People think they look too industrial. That would be something that I know we've had just worked last week with an HOA that they're rewriting their laws on that to say, no, let's allow security doors. Why would we ever not? Point is, when we come out on these, we give you lots of different recommendations, cheap ones and expensive ones, and it's on to you. You guys can do what you will with that recommendation. We'll give you a whole report and stuff on what you can do. All they are is recommendations. None of them are guaranteed to help it. We just want to try to get you guys thinking about fortifying your homes better. So lots of different tips. So if that's an option for any of you, or if you have residents that want that, put that word out there. We're available for that. We'd love to try to offer that resource to people. A few tips that I want to leave as far as home security, because I said that's more individual for each home. We just want to reiterate for people some things that you can help to prevent yourself, leading into what Detective Dixon's going to be talking about as far as some of the scams out there, identity theft, all these things that run rapid. We always remind people, don't take your garbage out until the last possible moment, so you don't have people rummaging through your trash. If you're out of town, get a neighbor that you trust that can bring your garbage cans in, bring your papers in, so it doesn't look like you're, gone, that the house is empty. Nowadays, it's so awesome with the technology that we have for your switches and everything to be on timer switches. Timer switch I have on my house, my porch lights, I can actually have it come on at random times. Give 15, 20 minutes, it will come on different times every single night. So it's not a set thing where somebody can say, oh, that comes on a timer every night. The timers are super cheap now. You get them at Lowe's, Amazon, wherever you want. You can set all your homes. You can set different lights in your house to come on, so it looks like it's always occupied. Technology is awesome, so we encourage you guys to use those kind of things. And these are things we talk about on a survey as well. Another thing I always want to tell people, this helps out our detectives tremendously, like Detective Dixon. All your valuable property, if it's got serial numbers on it, write it down. Please. God forbid that something does happen and somebody does get entry into your house and victimizes you and you're a victim of a burglary. We can track so much of that, solve so much crime by having those serial numbers. Henderson Police Department's on something called Leads Online, which is it's an online tracking system for pawn shops. We can see who pawned stuff, when it got pawned, all by tracking that serial number. If we don't have that, it really kills us as far as our investigative leads. So write that stuff down, keep it in a safe place. Don't store it on your computer, obviously, because if your computer gets stolen, you don't have it. Print it out, keep it somewhere where you can access that if something were to happen. If you've got property that's not serialized, jewelry, take a picture of your jewelry. Preferably take a picture with you wearing that jewelry so that we can help recover that. We have a good description of it. Jewelry is very hard with pawn shops because it's very generic. 14 karat gold with X amount of diamonds. It's very hard to know if that's your necklace or not with all the stuff. But as we go around to pawn shops, or if you go around and look, it's very easy for us to say, yes, that is your necklace because here you are with a picture of it in that. It helps us track that. So take pictures of your valuables. If it's serialized, track that down. I'm a big fan of diversion tactics for criminals. Anymore nowadays, if somebody does gain entry into your home, it's not like they used to where they just clean everything out of your home. Typically, it's an in and out. They're in and out and very, very quickly, within a few minutes. And they're going for small item things that they can fit in their backpack. They're going for phones, iPads, laptops. They're going for jewelry, guns, prescription pills, checkbooks, personal information. Small stuff that they can hurry and throw in. Most people, for whatever reason, keep their checkbooks and everything like in their nightstand in their bedroom or whatever. It's just people keep valuable stuff in very obvious places for criminals. They'll come in and start tossing drawers immediately into your bedroom. One thing that I always want people to have is if you have valuable jewelry, if you've got stuff that is sentimental to you, expensive jewelry, take that jewelry, keep it in your closet or something somewhere. Go buy a cheap jewelry box, throw it on your bathroom counter with some costume jewelry in there. Fill it full of costume jewelry. When the bad guy enters, if he does, he's going to take that and think he just hit the jackpot and he's out. And they typically are going to stop rummaging through anything else because they feel like they just got it all. Diversion tactics, I love them. There's lots of different diversion safes. If you just Google diversion safes or you go to Amazon, you can see a ton of them out there. They've got ones that look like soup cans that the bottom screws off and you can put valuable jewelry or whatever you might have in that if you're going out of town. They've got ones that look like a wall outlet that it pulls out and you can put passports and checkbooks and whatever you can inside the wall. Tons of different things, from clocks, you name it. Lots of different options. Something to consider, we don't want you folks to live in fear, right? But at the same time, just a few easy steps that are fairly simple can keep you safe from being a victim, or God forbid that you are a victim. At least it can protect some of your items from getting stolen, especially valuable jewelry. Last thing is just as far as the surveys go, yes, we'll talk about a lot of this thing as well. Pass that on. We'll talk about some of the ways you can fortify your house, and again, I'd reiterate some of these diversion safes and things like that. A lot of this is common sense though, and you guys know that. I don't have to stand up here and tell you this. It's just to bring that to the forefront of your mind. Bring that safety to the forefront of your mind, and hopefully that it'll just trigger something where you're like, okay, yes, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. The last thing I'll finish on is just home alarm systems. It's more known now. A few years ago, most people thought the police were gonna respond on every alarm. I just wanna make that clear for people in the room. Police department does not respond to home alarm systems. If you have a home alarm system and ADT told you no, the police will respond, we won't, under most circumstances. What will happen is your alarm will get triggered. A representative from your alarm company will come out. They will do a check on your house. I'm not going to say a perimeter check because they're not going to go in your backyard and over fences and stuff. If they see some kind of forced entry on your home, the broken window, kicked door, for whatever, they'll notify the police department and will come out and will respond if they can prove that something's happened. If it looks like it's all secure, they won't even contact us. They'll try to reach you through your phone or email or however you've been notified. I love home alarm systems. I have one. I think it's great to monitor it because I love getting an email if my alarm goes off or my text or whatever they'll call. Just be aware of the limitations that the police aren't always going to respond. The only situations we respond in is if you have audio or video of your home through the alarm system. If there's some kind of verifiable intrusion to your home, the police department will respond immediately. So if you had a video and you were able to see somebody in your home, clearly is broken in, doesn't belong, we would respond to that. If you can hear the audio sounds, no one's supposed to be in your home, but clearly there's somebody rummaging around, we will respond to that as well. But without that audio or visual to be able to have a verified home intrusion, it's just going to be the alarm company responding. So sometimes people get told, they're like, no, my company told me police respond every activation. We don't. It has to meet those certain criteria that our dispatch will ask before dispatch will send an officer out to that. So, any questions based on the home security surveys, anything like that?
Yeah, I have a question about the film. Some companies advertise if you put a film on the clear, on the glass, like your sliding glass doors or windows, that it's very difficult for somebody to break it with a rock or a baseball bat.
Correct.
What's your experience on that?
It's called security laminate. And again, you can Google security laminate and find all sorts of companies around the Vegas Valley that do it. I have it on my house. I like it. Wasn't totally my decision. We have a nice glass door with the glass panels coming down, and I wanted to put a security door, and my wife said, no, you're not covering up my beautiful glass door. So I went to the security laminate was the next option. That way we're both satisfied. Yeah, the laminate, they come out, they throw on a laminate. It's kind of like a window tint. You can get it tinted or you can get it clear. And it's just a thin film that goes on. You cannot even tell it's on the window. They beat it up and around to keep it, to reinforce it, so the whole window can't be pushed out. But yeah, one of the demonstrations we got, their thickest and highest quality stuff stopped a 9mm bullet. So you can't throw a rock, you can't throw a brick or anything through that security laminate. It will shatter your glass, but they can't get through. Now, with a lot of effort, they could, but again, way too hard for them. They want the path of least resistance. Criminals want the easiest target. That's going to be difficult for them. So they're going to work on it for a long time trying to get it through. There's plenty of videos online you can see where people are throwing brick after brick after brick trying to get through, and you just can't get through the laminate. I like it. That's one of the options we bring up in our home security surveys. Personally, I think it's a great option, but it's one of the more expensive options. It runs, for the good stuff, it runs around $2.50 a square foot, $2.50 a square foot. So, one of those things that we tell people, you don't need to do your upstairs windows necessarily. I would focus on downstairs windows if you were to do that. Main access points. That can reduce your cost as far as doing that on your whole house. But yeah, security laminates are a great option as well. Any other questions?
Now, the big question is it HOA qualified?
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of HOAs won't recommend it for use.
Why is that?
HOA code.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I guess that would be up on each individual code or bylaw for that. Like I said, the laminate itself, you cannot tell it's on a window, or you can't. It's completely visible. So I can't imagine it would violate any of the codes out there, like the security doors, big metal security doors. I get that because people don't want to see them. They're unsightly or whatever the situation. They look industrial. Security laminate, I can't imagine there'd be any issues, but that would be something you check for each individual HOA. Yeah.
Obviously, check your governing documents.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
for compliance with it.
Absolutely.
What happens if you're home alone and somebody breaks in your house? What do you do?
Call 911.
Where would you hide them? Where would you go? What would, I mean, you know, they're breaking into this, you know.
And here's the thing, I'm glad you touched base on that. Home invasions don't happen often, but they do happen. Again, criminals like that path of least resistance. They don't want to be spotted. They don't want to be alerted. Once they find that somebody's in a home, they're probably going to run. You know what I mean? They're not. But occasionally that has happened. One of the things that we encourage is if you're locked up, we always tell people this, one of these strategies that criminals use is they'll knock on your door, they'll ring your doorbell. No one answers. They assume no one's home. They go around the back, go through the window, or they kick the door in, or whatever it might be. A lot of people would be like, hey, somebody's ringing, I look out, I don't know who it is, so I just ignore them. We don't like that option. I would rather you not open the door. We don't like opening the door if we don't know who they are. But what we do encourage that you at least let them know the home is occupied. Because now they don't know how many people are in there. Who would at least say something. Hey, who is it? Hey, not interested, please go away. Now they know it's occupied. They don't know who's behind the door. They don't know any of those things, but it moves them on. But if something were to happen, of course we tell people to lock themselves in a bathroom, lock themselves in a bedroom. You know, if there was somebody really aggressive trying to get it there, but we encourage you to, you know, to call the police. Get that, that's an emergency. Our response times, of course, we could always improve on those. We're shorthanded in Henderson right now as far as police officers go, but we still take pride in getting to those calls as quickly as possible. But it could be a few minutes before we get there on something like that. So that's where that kind of that personal safety comes into play. Whatever's comfortable for you. Some people have guns in their homes. Some people have dogs. Some people have whatever it is. The alarm system. That's why I like the alarm system. You can lock your alarm system at night. That way if there was an intrusion, the alarm's going to go off. It's going to be audible. Neighbors are going to hear the alarm. Somebody comes over the panel and says, are you okay? No, I need you to call the police. These kind of things. So there's lots of options out there to help protect you. So, yep.
You know, I see people drive around with NRA stickers on their vehicles, and that's really just advertising they have guns. A thief could follow them home to see where they live. I mean, there's some things like that that just common sense. I belong to NRA, but I sure as heck would not drive around with that kind of sticker.
Yeah, and there's the mentality there is kind of twofold. Some people think, hey, if the criminal knows I have guns, he's not going to break into my house because chances are I'm going to shoot him. But there is that as well where it's like, hey, they know that could be a jackpot for them because there might be multiple guns. So, yeah, again, it's the advertising. It's the same thing we encourage around Christmas time. You get a nice big TV, you get some new computer stuff, you go put all your garbage and your boxes out for the recycle or on bulk day, just advertising everything you just got. We encourage you to cut those boxes out, fold them inside out so you don't see what was just purchased. Plan that better. It's just being smart, not advertising that. You're exactly right, and we can discuss those things again if you guys choose for the home security surveys. We'll go over all of those items as well. Yes, ma'am?
Your SEPTA program, a lot of our communities have clubhouses. Is that something you guys offer for clubhouses as well?
Absolutely. Yep, we'll do businesses, clubhouses. Yep. And preferably we like to do things like that, like a clubhouse or a particular residence. We've had requests where it's like, can you do my whole neighborhood? Like, I want the whole neighborhood safe. Much more difficult for us to do that because every house is different. We can do landscape and lighting for the neighborhood. You know, it's not hard to drive through at night and say, wow, better lighting, this is really too dark here. This is just a crime waiting to happen because of the dark. The lighting at nighttime is the #1 deterrent to crime, to nighttime crime, is good lighting. We encourage good lighting. Light that place up. Criminals don't want to be seen. They don't want to have, they love to work under that cloak of darkness, and they don't want to be spotted. So things like that, yeah, we can do that as well, though. Absolutely. So,
And Officer Williams, there's no reason, I would imagine, that as board members, if you have community newsletters, you can't pass this information on to your homeowners, such as the programs. And we'll get, the email will send out, all people, it'll have links to those types of things and the numbers you need to contact the Bureau to have. So you can pass that on to your homeowners, either via, announcement at a board meeting or through the newsletters that many of your communities have. It'd be a great way to pass that
and
information.
you'd be surprised at just a simple safety letter, some tips. Even though they sound so basic and, very common sense, you'd be surprised how just every once in a while we all need it. We all need that kind of reminder of, oh yeah, I've gotten a little bit lax. If any of you have gated communities, they're our worst offenders. Because the gated community, they feel very safe and they kind of get a little bit apathetic and they think, oh, I'm good in here, I'm safe in here. Those end up being our targets because they just weren't paying attention to that suspicious vehicle that was parked down the street or whatever it might be. One thing I do want to encourage, we get paid to be curious. That's my job. We encourage folks to call the police. We have 911 for emergency situations, and we have 311 for non-emergency situations. If you see a suspect or you see a some kid walking down the street and you're like, man, I've never seen him in this neighborhood before. Something just about him seems suspicious, but he's not doing anything wrong. He's not committing a crime, he just doesn't look like he belongs. Call that. That's a 311 call right there. We would rather come out there. A lot of times people, like Captain Castle said before, people think, the police have better things to do. I don't want to waste their time. We want that. We are busy. We may not be able to respond to that one quickly. That might go down in the stack and it's a while. But we may be right around the corner and we could be on it. We want those calls because not only does it tell us who's calling, because every call gets tracked, it helps us when we look at our map and we can say, hey, we've got a lot of calls about this suspect matching this description or this vehicle. We can use all of that to help potentially find somebody that's terrorizing a neighborhood. But we would rather come out, find out that that person belongs in the neighborhood, that they're visiting someone, and that it's legit and bona fide, than to let somebody potentially that's breaking into cars walk away. So please, if you see something, you guys know best. One of the things that SEPTED strategies talk about is natural surveillance. It's about having eyes on the street. Police can only be there, in your neighborhood so often. We can't drive every neighborhood all the time. But you guys are always out, walking dogs, you're out getting newspaper, whatever it is, getting your mail. You guys see what's going on in your neighborhood. So we encourage neighborhood watch groups. We encourage folks to be out there looking at the streets, paying attention to what's going on, and reporting that to us. Because together we can work as that team. You guys are those extra set of eyes that help us do our job. People don't realize, but if I'm driving through your neighborhood and I see a suspect just walking down the street, or just a suspicious person, I don't know if he belongs or not. I absolutely can't stop him. I cannot just stop him. I can consensually do it. I can say, hey man, would you like to talk to me? And he can say, no, pound sand, and he can run. There's not a thing I can do about it. But you guys actually give police the power to do our jobs when you call that stuff in. You guys have now called in, reporting the suspicious activity. It gives us a little bit more muscle to be able to at least talk and, hey, I just need to verify that you belong in the neighborhood type of situation. You guys help us. It's a mutual effort. It's a teamwork. And that's what we want to emphasize here, that we have that here in Henderson, and we want to maintain that with HOAs, with board members, with the residents. We want to have this relationship and work together collectively to stop crime and keep Henderson. You guys see the stats. Henderson keeps ranking in the top 5 to 10 for safest cities, even though we are severely understaffed. We still manage to do it. The reason is because of the community effort and help for Henderson residents. So let's keep that trend going. Okay, last one, sorry.
Someone that has a license to carry a gun, are they supposed to walk around like the police?
Nevada's still an open carry state. It's Wild West here. So you can actually walk around in Nevada with your gun exposed, even without a concealed carry permit. Concealed carry just allows you to carry concealed. I like that because it doesn't alert people. People don't like to see guns on anyone that's not a law enforcement officer. Even then, I don't think they like to see it. But I encourage the concealed carry, but if they don't, somebody does not even need a concealed carry permit. They can carry their gun on their hip, completely exposed, as long as it is exposed. They actually have to carry it legally that way. So yeah, people can walk around with a gun on their hip. So it's just still one of those things that they're right, and we respect that right. But it does alarm people in a lot of situations, so we usually encourage people to just get a concealed carry permit so it doesn't freak out other people. But yeah, you will see that around here. We get a lot of people that do that. Yep. Okay, for lack of time, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to leave a stack of my business cards here with Chris, if you don't mind, so you can reach out to him if you have that. And then he'll also have a link to the City of Henderson's website where you can get on there and click Contact Henderson for a home security survey if you know anyone that wants us to come out and survey your home. And other than that, I appreciate your time. Thank you, folks.
So, next up we have Detective Dixon.
Good evening, how's everybody doing? Good? Good. I'm Detective Dixon with the Henderson Police Department, and I work in financial crimes. So I'm dealing with identity theft, stolen checks that are washed and cashed in all our local banks, and credit card fraud. But actually, scams against the elderly is called the crime of the 21st century. It's very easy. People do it over the phone, they do it over the internet. They never have to meet you face to face, but they like to tug on heartstrings. So I'm going to give you just a couple. I'm going to start with the ones we don't get all that often, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with the ones we get quite a bit. I've been with the Henderson Police Department for 10 years now. 8 years in patrol, and a little over 2 here with Financial Crimes Unit. Before that, I did 4 years as a deputy sheriff near Orlando, Florida, and then 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. All right, I'm going to start off with, honestly, in 2 years I haven't had any of these. I've heard a couple on the news, but funeral scams, where the widow or widower, they're handling all the arrangements. The funeral home will basically say, yeah, you need this casket, and they usually try to go to the high end, and it's for a cremation anyway. You don't need an expensive casket for a cremation. That's one scam that they do. People will attend funerals and actually come up to the family and say, hey, they'll read the obituary, they know the names, they're like, hey, they had an outstanding debt with us and you need to make this right, or we're going to get our lawyers involved. That's another thing. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not, and you need to contact the police department. Anti-aging products. Somebody calls you up, or you get a pop-up or something like that, leave it alone. The best things you can get are at your local drugstore. I wouldn't even mess with, there was a place out of Arizona that was selling fake Botox and actually gave people allergic reactions. And by the time now you have to go to the hospital and take care of yourself and get better and find out exactly what happened. Now you've spent a ton of money with doctor visits when you should have just went to CVS. So again, that's one that we don't really get all that often. The fake accident, they'll call up and say, your son or daughter's been in an accident, they're currently at Sunrise Hospital, we need you to wire $500 to start the care or whatever. That's why we have insurance. That is never going to happen. You know that most of the time you go to the doctor's office now, unless you have a copay, you walk out of there and they send you a bill. So again, some of these are older, but the thing, these scammers are constantly changing. I could come back here in 6 months and give you 5 more new ones that they've come up with, because all the other ones have kind of been figured out. Another one is they will hack and send emails out and basically say, hey, this is Bank of America. It'll have the whole Bank of America logo, it's got your name, and it looks legitimate. And they're like, hey, we're just updating our records. Can you please give us your name, date of birth, social, and any kind of change in address or phone number. The bank will never ask for that. They already have your stuff. Obviously, if you move or something like that, you would personally go to the bank and say, hey, I have a change of address. And when in doubt and you think it's a scam, obviously, you can call us or just go to the bank in person if you can. Lottery scams. Let's say, hey, you just won the Canadian lottery or the Publishers Clearinghouse, but so we can process your winnings, you need to send us $1,800. And they'll say, hey, wire to this bank account, or they'll tell you to go down to CVS and get like a prepaid card or a green dot card. Like I said to another group, the only cards that you should be buying are Toys R Us gift cards for your grandkids. Green dot cards, I've never seen a legitimate transaction with a green dot card. It's really something that's used mostly by the criminals. We deal with them all the time, and unfortunately, I'll get into green dot a little later. And the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. There is no free lunch.
Wait, what about the IRS?
I'm going to get to that one because that one is killing us right now. Like I said, I'm going from the least to the worst. So yeah, actually I'm going to finish up with the IRS one.
And the food here?
Oh, that's free, right? So there was free lunch? Okay, see, I lied.
The other one is they call from India that there's trouble with your PC.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. Really?
Yeah, they tell you that your server,
Your Windows.
you have a problem with your server, and we've detected this problem, and you need to do
So what, like send us $500 and we'll fix it for you, that kind of thing?
No, they want your password and they want to get into your computer so they can hack.
Yeah.
Wow.
Remote access.
Haven't had any of those in Henderson.
I've had at least 3 times.
Really? Yeah, stuff like that, you know, say it keeps happening and you're getting these certain phone numbers, even if you pass it on to law enforcement, a lot of the times, like you said, they're gonna be in India, at least, like, hey, this is Detective Dixon with the Henderson Police Department, and then usually they never call again.
Can we use your name, please?
DIXON. Tell them they can come see me personally if they want to jump on a plane, and I'll meet them in my office. They don't like that either. The next big one, right before the IRS, is the Grandparent Scam. Has everyone heard that one? I got 2 cases right now, and unfortunately, the lady sent $3,600, and then they try to even get more money. Hey, there's even more fees, because once they've done it one, they're like, hey, she might do it again. So we'll say something else came up, or the bail got higher, or something like that. And they'll usually start with, hey, Grandma, do you know who this is? Oh, yeah. Billy? Yeah, Grandma, it's Billy. I'm in San Diego. I was visiting some friends, and the one they use now, they even make it worse. My friend who has cancer. So now that, oh gosh, your friend has cancer, that's horrible. Yeah, and I actually, I got a car wreck, and I had a couple drinks, and now I'm in jail. There's some really bad people in here, and I'm scared for my safety. You need to, I'm gonna put you on the phone with the corrections officer, and he's gonna give you an account number that you can, you know, wire the money to jail. So, my current victim, she was like, in the back of my head, I thought it was wrong, but he was kind of convincing, and I just didn't want it really to be true, and I was leaving my grandson high and dry. So unfortunately, she did it. So, but they did have a bank account that I was routed to through Chase. So now I've sent a bunch of admin subpoenas trying to get all those records from Chase. So hopefully something comes of that. And the IRS.
There's a warrant out for my arrest.
Is there?
Yes,
And how much did he want from it?
I never got that far.
Okay.
I always said, if you don't, I never answer it, okay?
Okay.
They said there's a warrant out for your arrest, if you don't call, if you or your attorney does not call us back, we can't help you. So, and it's a Washington DC number.
Yep.
It's amazing, I mean, I know that it's a scam, because IRS will never, well, they're not Washington DC.
The IRS will just send you letters.
To me,
Really?
yeah, and I'm laughing hysterically.
Did he say
They
something
with
like,
an accent that is, this is Sergeant, whatever, the IRS.
or a special agent, did he give you a badge number?
With an accent.
Okay.
Pakistan. India's getting too expensive, so they're going to Pakistan.
So they're going to other places. Yeah, they'll say, hey, this is, you know, Agent Johnson with the IRS, badge number 7284. We did an audit back in 2011, 2012, and our records show that you have back taxes that are due $4,500. If you do not pay that, you know, in the next 6 hours, we're going to have agents come to your house. And then people, you know, sometimes people will, you know what, I had that one tax guy that I used. He wasn't great, he messed up some stuff. Maybe, you know, maybe some did get messed up. So they start second guessing, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get arrested. And then, but the thing is, then they'll like, hey, go down to CVS and go get 2 green dot cards for, you know, $500, say it's for $1,000. And then people will get the green dot cards, and they'll get the number off the back, read it over the phone, and now they have the number, and then they'll cash it in Washington, DC. And then by the time we get the case, there's,
They just don't even go, you know.
right, just
You
call.
just know that the IRS will never, ever, ever.
Never come to your house and put you in custody.
And put you a warrant out for your arrest, are you kidding me? They're gonna take my yacht, was the other one.
Do you have a yacht?
No.
There you go.
I love it.
So yeah, that's a big one. Like I said, I have about 3 cases right now involving IRS scams. And then that's another thing, people say they don't give the money, but you can still contact us and at least give us a phone number. At least we can check up on it. You never know, it could be someone local. A lot of times it's not, but there are phone companies that actually, you can call them up and request. So say your number is 702, you can call the phone company, hey, I want my number to show that I'm in DC. So it'll come up with the DC number, which you're right down the street. So,
What about the latest one where they actually have the computer and they can take your credit card off?
oh, just
As
like,
you're putting your card in at stores. Well, while you're swiping it, they steal it.
oh,
I mean,
you're
is
just,
there any,
just like just regular old computer hackers, or?
yeah,
I mean, some of them are really good. A lot, China and Russia, obviously, they lead they're leading the race on all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't deal with too much like computer hacking stuff. Most of the time, it's it's phone calls or.
batteries?
Oh, what's that?
I have an uncle that died in Puerto Rico that left me $380,000.
Really? Wow, they love your number. Somebody keeps passing your number out. Go ahead, sir.
My sister in Missouri actually paid probably close to $2,000. And what she thought was an electric bill. She's a businesswoman, has a bed and breakfast and restaurant. And they convinced her that if she didn't pay that, they're gonna shut down the electricity. And she did the whole green dot thing, Walgreens and all that. And here's a woman who never listens to the news, and she suffered for it.
No, that's true, and I've had a couple of cases with local restaurants. They're calling up local restaurants saying, yeah, you gotta go get some green dot cards right now, or we're gonna shut your power off. So what does a restaurant owner do? There goes all my meat, there goes all my produce. So they don't even mess around because that stuff's gonna be rotten in a couple hours, so they go right down. And so if you ever have any kind of doubt, you can always call and verify. Actually, you know how Captain Castle said, if you go to our website and you can find his picture and his name and his phone number on the website if you want to contact him. Well, somebody actually did that with another one of our captains and said, hey, this is Captain so-and-so with Henderson PD. So the people immediately thought it was legitimate. It even went on the website, and they actually hacked in and had a 702-267, which is our prefix to the police department, go across their caller ID. I don't exactly know how they did that, but that happened about a year ago. So, but yeah, if you ever have a question, you're in doubt, you can always call us and we can, help you verify stuff. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, there's an app that you can purchase that will spoof your number, so you can spoof anybody. So that's probably how they did it. It was an app for your phone, so it could appear that you're calling from the Henderson Police Department.
Real quick, is it safe to say then, if anyone asks you to go get a green dot card or any other card for any other purpose, no legitimate business or government entity is gonna ask you to do any of that, so that right there is your big red flag to say no thanks.
No.
I don't even know what a green dot card is.
It's just a little credit card prepaid thing. That's the name of the company, Green Dot. It's got a little green dot on
They're a
it.
legitimate company?
They are. They say they are. Like I said, the only people I ever see with green dot cards,
Are
criminals, when we do search warrants on people that actually manufacture credit cards and wash checks and all that stuff, we call it a fraud lab, where they're actually making fake IDs and stealing, breaking into doctors' offices and stealing profiles of people's medical records. And then now they have, they do funeral homes. They're breaking into funeral homes and taking profiles from people. The last one we had, they all passed away in 2001, 2002, and we're just finding filing cabinets full of those, and it's got name, date of birth, address.
And they're
So
collecting what, social security?
trying to open fake bank account or bank accounts with Bank of America, just to see in different loan companies. They can try, 100 times, and maybe one loan company actually funds a loan, so they've succeeded. So it's just.
So the funeral companies call you so you're aware of it?
Well, actually, Metro had one about a month ago, and they said, hey, someone kicked in our back door, and all the profiles were missing.
there's no backups.
Oh, what's that?
I mean, is there backups for those profiles, or they're just?
No, those were, they were all just carbon copies, actually.
Yeah.
People still use carbon copies, huh?
Actually, we have a couple, we have a couple forms of the police department, we still have carbon copies. But I'll wrap it up real quick. If you are the victim of identity theft, one of the first things you should do, you can go to the state attorney's website, and they have an identity theft program. You can contact them, and basically it logs you, said, hey, you know, in 2015, I was the victim of identity theft. That way the state knows. You've got a police report with the Henderson Police Department. So say 10 years from now, something pops up on your credit report and they're saying, hey, you got a loan for $50,000 you owe us. You're like, no, I didn't, but back in the day I was a victim of identity theft. It's just more documentation to protect you down the road. And you gotta contact the IRS and say, hey, my identity has been compromised and my social. So basically from that date, you will never file your taxes under your own social again. They will give you like a new PIN number. I think it's usually like 5 digits. That's just for you, and it's brand new, and it's not compromised.
It's a good thing.
Oh, what's that?
I said, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
You know, it's wonderful, especially when you travel
because
a lot.
the IRS, the loss in IRS with people filing under your social, it's way in the billions. Another thing real quick, try not to use your PIN number at gas stations, at the grocery store. Always run it as credit, because that way they can't get your PIN number. And your PIN number is attached to the actual cash in your accounts. Where you run it through credit, the credit company in the bank is actually going to be on the hook, and they'll be the victim. So I never ever run my 4-digit PIN through anything on my card. I always swipe it as credit.
Now, you're not talking about if you go back to the ATM.
That's the only place I would do it. But even those, especially in the little entrapment area, you know, you walk through the glass doors, say the bank's closed. They even make replicas of the keypad and all that. Yeah, and put a little camera so they can see what numbers you press. So even those aren't 100%. I guess if it was during business hours, you know, kind of check out. Same with gas pumps. Kind of, you know, like Shell, they put the little sticker on there to see if it was broken or not. Some don't look right. Contact management. If you see wires hanging out or some pride.
2 keypads.
Oh, what's that? 2 keypads. 2 keypads. Yeah. That's, but I believe actually I think I only got one card on me. But I'll leave it with you.
Like that, make sure the copy of Rich gets up. I think a lot of it, how many times in our lives we've been told if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? That would certainly apply with a lot of what Detective Dixon is talking about. So, thank you, Detective Dixon. Hopefully, this is something we just hear about. So, we're going to wrap up with Constable and again, squatters. I know it's something we hear a lot about, so hopefully no one in here has to deal with that, but I would imagine that it's probably a subject that some of us in here have had to deal with. So, and we were just chatting before, and I'm excited for what he's going to share because I know that I'm going to learn something tonight as well.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for having me here. My name is Earl Mitchell. I'm your Henderson Constable. I've been in the community about 40 years, which is as close to native as you're going to get. I have 29 years in law enforcement, all of it here in Henderson. As Captain Castle had stated, I spent 22 years with the Henderson Police Department, retired in 2008, and I have 20 years with the Henderson Constable's Office. Most common question I get, what is a constable? It is the oldest law enforcement in Nevada. It's also the oldest law enforcement in Henderson. When the township was formed in 1944 during the war, there was a deputy sheriff from Clark County. He also doubled as the constable. Under state law, the only ones that can handle evictions are the constables, and in the counties without a constable, the sheriff assumes those duties. I want to reiterate something that Officer Williams had talked to you about. I think it's a good opening going right into the squatters. You talked about community involvement. I've often said law enforcement is only as effective as you allow us to be. A number of years ago, I was working in the Green Valley area, and there was a burglary that was reported, and I arrived there as the primary officer, and it was more than just a burglary. The house was wiped clean. It was a 2-story house. So come to find out, the owner was a professor, and I believe from UNLV, he was on a sabbatical, and it was during the summertime. And he had a friend that would come by every once in a while and check on the house and the mail, what have you, but that was maybe twice a week. So in the interim, it turned out that some men in a moving van showed up one day and just literally cleaned the place out. Now, when I got there, took my initial report, part of what we do in our investigations and burglaries, we go and we touch base with the neighbors, see if they saw anything. 2 houses down, sure enough, the woman there, she had saw the whole thing. She said that they were there for hours. And it bothered me, because I'm from this community. And like I said, we need your involvement. This could have been prevented. I asked her, did you know that he was out of town? Yes, I did. Well, why didn't you call us? I didn't want to get involved. Didn't want to get involved. And because as Officer Williams has stated, this was in the middle of the day. If I would have been patrolling that street and I would have saw that man in the driveway and 4 men in a uniform moving furniture out, I wouldn't have thought of anything. I certainly wouldn't have stopped, say, for a consensual, hey, can I talk to you? But as Officer Williams stated, if a neighbor would have called in and said, hey, my neighbor's out of town, there's a moving van there, and 4 guys, and they're cleaning out the house. That gives us that little extra bit of information that could have pulled up, got to the bottom of it, and obviously, arrested these burglars. So that kind of segues into squatters. The only way that we find out about those are if you, the community, tells us. I guarantee, the patrol officers going down the street, somebody's in it. We don't always know what houses are being foreclosed on. Even if we do, we're not going to stop every time well, I know this house was in foreclosure. Let me go see these people living here if they have a legitimate right to be there. So it's always that somebody in the neighborhood calls us, or it's usually probably 98% of the time it's going to be the police department. They'll go out, they'll check it out, find out that it's squatters, and then the constable's office will be contacted. Because the police are in the situation, they can't be the judge and jury. As Captain Castle stated, last year 184,000 calls. They are severely understaffed. In fact, I retired in 2008. There are less officers now than back then, and they do a fantastic job. As they stated, we're among the top 5 safest cities of our size in the United States. So we rely on the eyes and ears that the community provides. So the officer gets there. The neighbor may or may not be anonymous. The officer goes up to the house. If he makes contact with somebody, oftentimes there's power on, there's furniture, the people come in the door, they've got a lease, and and that's it. That's all the officer has to go by. If he thinks something's suspicious, he'll call us. We try to look into it further. Because a lot of these squatters, these homes that are in foreclosure, they're being advertised on Craigslist. That's the first red flag. So you have somebody that's looking to rent a place, and a lot of these squatters, using that term, they're victims too. They paid money. They actually give receipts a lot of times. They have a written contract, a lease. So they're a victim too. So they respond to an ad on Craigslist. Somebody shows them the house. They agree to take it. Money exchanges hands, and they move in. Now, if it's an obvious squatter, on occasions you might get a homeless person. The officer shows up, or on occasions, one of my deputies will show up, and we can clearly tell there was forced entry, it's a homeless person, no power on, no water on, there's an old mattress. Well, we can run them out. But if it looks legitimate, especially if we believe that the occupants are also victims, then you have to go through an eviction procedure. Now, simply put, Nevada is probably one of the quickest states to get an eviction. Here's where the problem lies with these foreclosed houses and these squatters. You'll have somebody that either abandons the house, moves away, cash for keys, whatever. Oftentimes, they're cross country, and some banks will not take possession of the property. They don't want to pay the HOA fees. They leave the property in the name of the homeowner, and so those fees might pile up against that homeowner. It goes on the credit report. I've dealt with a few of these cases where we've been able to locate the owner. I had one a couple of weeks ago. They're in Georgia, and they said, we walked away 2 years ago, and the bank hadn't taken possession, because once they go and put their name on the deed, then there are state laws, city laws, code enforcement, whatever. There's still ways to compel the bank to take it, but it's all about the money with the bank, that they choose, for whatever their reasons are, not to take possession of that property. So in order to do the eviction, somebody's got to be able to have that authority. Certainly if the bank has the property, and on occasions if the bank will have the property, they just haven't done anything with it for months, years, and we'll get them to go ahead and start the eviction process. I dealt with one there was another one about a month ago, and it was Citibank, and they had turned it over to their legal in New York, and I mean, it just went around and around. I had neighbors in this cul-de-sac. All 5 of them had contacted me. I got statements from them. I put pressure on the local manager here handling it. Unfortunately, it took a little while, but we did finally get them out because of the bureaucracy of that bank. When really, if they would have had, that manager could have just came right down to the Henderson Justice Court and Constable's office, we could have had him out in a couple of weeks. But he didn't have the authority, and he had to go to his supervisor, and they had to go to legal, so I think everyone's kind of aware of that situation. Then the other one is that the former owner still legally has possession of the property, owns the property, even though it was in foreclosure, and they walked away from it. And so now trying to locate them. So that's where the problem lies, in trying to find somebody to have that authority to go and file for the eviction. Now maybe, I haven't heard of any HOAs being able to somehow collectively get together, getting an attorney and being able to do it if they can't convince the bank to go ahead and do it, or they can't find the former owner. But the process itself, if there's any lawyers in this room, you may not like this, but you really don't even need a lawyer. Go through a summary eviction, and you serve a 3-day nuisance. You serve, when that expires, if they're not out, a 5-day unlawful, and then the eviction order inside of a couple of weeks. And all it really takes is somebody that has that authority to be able to file the paperwork. Now, there have been a couple of situations where in that 3-step process, doing the second step, the unlawful detainer part, the squatter/tenant, especially I find if they're a victim, at that point, when that 5-day notice is served, they have a right to request a hearing, and it will automatically be granted. Now in Henderson, that hearing generally is 1 week later, and I can only speak to how it operates in Henderson. The laws I'm talking about are universal throughout the state and county, but I know to get evictions or get into court in Las Vegas, only because the volume, it takes a bit longer. So here in Henderson, they can get into court the following week. And what I have found is, if they're truly part of a scam or a squatter, once the first notice is served, they typically get out. If they are a victim themselves because they want to be reimbursed, they want to get their money back. In fact, I just did, it was Lieutenant Troy Hatch's old house here a couple of weeks ago. Had some squatters, they, I think, turned out to be victims from this Craigslist. And fortunately, the officer involved was able to, I think, arrest the woman that had advertised the property. So for these victims or squatters, their recourse would be against her to get their money back. Okay, so at any rate, if you, I mean, sometimes you'll have like entire families, mom, pop, and you know, the 3, 4 kids, and the dogs and the cats, and they, unbelievably to me, I've known people given 6 months, a year's rent in advance. They get a receipt. I don't recommend that. So they're out thousands of dollars, and they can't get another place. They're trying, obviously, they want some recourse and justice, and they're trying to buy some time. So they may go to court, but they are going to be, the judge may give them, it's up to him. He can give them up to 30 days, depending on the situation. But it is, the process itself is simple to get them out. The main problem we find is who has the authority to be able to file for the eviction. If we can make the determination that clearly they're, we have no question that they're a squatter, we can make them leave right there on the spot. And depending on the situation, if there's any criminal activity, damage of property, there may be an arrest. But typically, you know, when I've dealt with homeless people that have broken into homes, and you got to get out. And it's as simple as that. Yes.
The city of Henderson, I understand, is a law that you cannot lease a single-family residence for less than 6 months. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with that. I know the county and the city of Las Vegas, I thought it was for less than 30 days, but I would have to verify on that. Well, actually, no, I've got to say that's not true, because under the statute, you can rent month to month. You do not have to have a lease. So a lease would indicate, I mean, a lease can be for whatever time that you as the landlord and the tenant would agree on. If there is no lease, then it's month to month. So if the city of Henderson has a law like that, ordinance like that, I have to believe it's for not less than 30 days. Because otherwise, if they're restricting it to 6 months, you may have people come in, workers from out of state, and they've got a project, and they only need to be here for 3 months. I just don't see that property owners would like that. So I don't think
it's our HOA that's half here. I think it's probably the CCNRs. But then let's say it is an ordinance in Henderson. It's 30 days, no less. But what we had in our situation was a guy renting his house out for weekends and parties and stuff. And of course, the parties attracted attention, and we had to get on his case. And he still kept trying to do it. Do we have any recourse through your office with something like that?
I think that would, let me defer to Officer Williams there. If the city of Henderson has an ordinance like that, and I know that there was a big push with that with the county and the city of Las Vegas, so that would be a misdemeanor, and therefore, I mean, yes, can the constable's office deal with that? But typically, those would be turned over to the police, and I would think that might even be a community policing issue, because if an HOA was contacting the police department, like Captain Castle said, you know, have this communication, let us know what resources are there to help you, and you continually have this one resident who rents out a home for weekends and just parties and temporarily. I think that's something that community policing would deal with. When I was with the police department, I spent 3 years with them. Sergeant, if you want.
Real quick, I don't know, I'm not familiar with that particular code. It could be, if the police department would deal with it if it was under the criminal section of the municipal code. If it's in the code enforcement section, it might fall there as well. I can't say for sure, but we would have to take a look at that actually. You can call the police if you have an issue, obviously, we will come out, we will take a look at it with him, we'll determine, yes, it's ours, or no, it goes to the constable, or no, it goes to code enforcement. But we can definitely help you determine where it goes, but it may not be.
Our recourse is legal action against the owner.
Right. So, and that's typically where we go on those. We get a lot of those, the renter, and they just rent to bad people all the time. It's a party house. Really, our hands are tied. From a community relations point of view, we try to handle it and resolve it.
Even as a board member, our hands are tied, because people come to us and say, well, if I can show a victim, as board people, we can't.
And we're the same way. It may not be, what we do is we try to be amicable about it. We'll often go out, contact them and say, hey, look, the party's got to stop. If it doesn't, then we come out there and we hit them with noise ordinances. We reach out to code enforcement, and we do what we can to try to say, hey, you gotta stop this behavior and curb it, but ultimately, there's no law about being a jerk and a bad neighbor. If there were, I'd have lost the rest. Unfortunately, it isn't that.
I know that Chris wanted to get you out of here at 7 o'clock. I'll stick around a few minutes if anyone has any questions. I have some of my business cards that I will give to Chris, so if any of you want those, and I have a couple other handouts. Thank you very much for having us all.
Yeah, thank you again for coming. The fact that you're here shows that you care about not only your community, but about the city of Henderson as well. And the idea is we need to kind of have a trickle-down effect of taking this information and sharing it with our communities. We will send out some follow-up information. So for those of you that we have contact information for, expect an email from us in the next couple of days. If you don't have your contact information, so if you were one of the walk-ins, feel free to just share that contact information. Just first name, last name, your email addresses. We'll send out the emails. But all the documents that they talked about, we'll make sure that those are sent out. Links to the City of Henderson website that references your area maps and your captain's contact information. We'll make sure you get that as well. And then some of the highlight, the points that we're specifically talking about, you know, the ways to protect your home, the film. We'll include some of those bullet points as well that, of course, will make great sections and articles maybe within your newsletter. So, again, thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your service and dedication to the community. Feel free to take some food with on the way. Enjoy that. And, again, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.